But we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Maya Porter. I am the communications coordinator for FPMA, and I want to thank you all so much for taking time to come out tonight and join us for our Financial Planning for Physicians webinar. So tonight with us, we have two amazing speakers from Evershore Financial, John Paul Olsen and Christian Rasband. John Paul Olsen has been an advisor with Evershore Financial for the past 5 years. His passion is turning chaos into order in his work and life, and his goal with his clients is to ensure that they don't have too much life at the end of their money. When not at work, he can be found on the golf course or in his wood shop working on his latest creation. Christian Rasband is a financial advisor, a field director, and senior vice president with Evershore Financial Group, where he's helped serve his clients for over 10 years. He has a background in banking and a Bachelor of Arts in Economics from Brigham Young University. He plays tennis and spending time with his wife and 8 children in his spare time.
Thank you. We're so grateful that all of you guys would join us this evening for this webinar that we are doing here. We've had a long, wonderful relationship with FPMA. I think it goes back about 5 years now, and we have an official relationship where we administer what's called a multiple employer plan, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight and make sure everybody has a clear understanding of what that is and that important member benefit that we help the association with. But we've had that relationship with the FPMA for a number of years now, and but as financial advisors, there's a lot of other ways that we can be a resource as well. And so we're going to spend some time tonight talking specifically a little bit about the important topic of asset and creditor protection for physicians when it comes to financial planning. In the intro, it was stated, I've been working with physicians and been a financial advisor focused on the medical market for about 15 years now, and have been working with physicians almost since the beginning. And one topic that comes up all the time is asset protection, creditor protection. Want to make sure that you're protecting your money from any type of creditors or lawsuits or malpractice or anything along those lines. And so tonight we're going to focus in on some vehicles that can give you that asset protection and how that fits into the overall financial planning for physicians. Hopefully everyone can walk away with some information that's helpful and at least one takeaway that maybe can be applied for your personal financial planning picture. We did want to start with asking Dr. Samir Vakil if he wouldn't mind just taking a moment or two kind of by way of introduction as well. He was one of the first physicians, his group, to join on to the multiple employer plan, which is basically a group retirement plan for the association, kind of like a 401k that all the individual practices and providers within the FPMA can join and be a part of. And he and his office adopted that early, and we've also helped him with some personal planning. He's a past president of the association, and we're so grateful he said yes. And we asked him to take just a moment or two and tell a little bit about his experience with us and with the multiple employer plan. So Dr. Vakil, please.
Yeah, we had another company working with us and stuff, and they just weren't as, forthcoming. And, we sent it over to JP and Christian and said, here, evaluate our plan, and so they evaluated our plan and said, here, we can probably save you $20,000 to $25,000. We have a 4-person practice and 15 employees. But they said we could probably save you $20,000 to $25,000 in fees, not profit, not nothing, just in fees by switching over to this plan. And so that's not just for the doctor, that's for my entire staff, and so we talked about it, and they have so many funds in their plan that they did almost like a crossover. Said, okay, this is your risk tolerance, and this is what you're in, and this is what we're going to switch you over to. And so we've had some great years, and even with this downturn lately, it really hasn't dropped our valuation of our plan, that much, maybe single digits compared to a lot of other people who have dropped double digits, just because they diversified us the right way. But our fees are much, much lower And, they have the ability to see fees and then hidden fees that are in your plan, and I'll have them talk a little bit about what the difference is. But we've been super happy with it. And, my wife and I just signed up for a long-term care policy with their company as well, that they help me through and stuff. And we have another financial planner, and, he's like, oh yeah, we'll put you this in this plan, and it's going to cost you and your wife $16,000 a year, for the next 30 years, to get this long-term care policy. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to work that long. How am I going to come up with that much money? And so Christian and JP came up with a much better long-term care plan, that pays and is almost active from the first day you get it. And so we just signed the paperwork for the long-term care plan. And so that's a burden off me and my children down the road. I think that's about it, but we've been really happy with all the, if we ever have questions, we just text them and stuff, and they get back with us right away. And we probably have, I think every one of our employees in our office is signed up with the pension plan. And we have a 401k safe harbor, and we do a 4% match. And each one of them, we kind of sat down with them, and JP and Christian sat down with them individually as they get to that 1 year mark and said, here, and they will help them figure out their risk tolerance and put them in a plan.
Perfect.
Did I miss anything?
No, that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Vakil. It's been a pleasure for us to work with you and help you through all that planning. So thank you for all your words and for the opportunity to work with you. So great. So let's go ahead and dive into it. We want to show one document, and then we're going to start off talking about that multiple employer plan. But JP, if you want to go ahead and put up the physician life cycle document. This is a document that we are actually going to send out to all of you via email after this webinar. This is such a helpful tool for physicians. It really goes, starts at the beginning while you're in medical school and follows all the way around the pinwheel, where it shows key things that you should be considering at each stage of your practice and where you're at, and the financial planning pieces that maybe you should consider having in place at different stages. And we've seen this to be a very helpful tool, and everybody on this call would be at a different stage and has likely adopted different pieces of planning along the way. But this may just be a helpful tool for you to go ahead and take a look at, kind of see where you're at, and see, if you're in private practice right here in the middle, solo practice, then, as you've been kind of building your financial picture along the way, maybe it's time to look at a comprehensive financial plan. Maybe it's time to make sure that you're really funding your retirement plans and that you have the appropriate amount of insurance. Those are all different pieces of the financial planning that comes in place at that point. And then again, as you go on later into your practice, there's other things that you should start considering. And so this is the path that we walk with our physician clients, helping them make those decisions along the way and making sure that they're protecting their families and saving for retirement to accomplish their overall goals. So with that, we want to focus in here initially. I mean, the topic of tonight, again, is looking at asset and creditor protection for physicians and what vehicles you can use within your financial planning to accomplish those goals. And we're going to focus in on three main areas. I do want it to be clear that we're not, saying any one of you necessarily, we'd have to have individual conversation to know if any one of those things are suitable for your picture and exactly what you're trying to accomplish. Everybody's goals are a little bit different. And when it comes to investing, there's managed money, there's brokerage accounts, there's college funding. There are so many different things that you can take a look at. But the three things we want to focus in on: retirement plans, and then there is a life insurance vehicle that can be used that gives you asset protection. And then there also actually are some annuity vehicles that give you asset protection as well that we wanted to just mention. It's going to be a lot different than probably what you've thought of annuities to be in the past. So let's start off talking about multiple employer plan. I think we might have lost, Maya, if you can help us out, I think we might have lost our screen share where it's showing Dr. Vakil as pinned. So maybe if we can try and work on that, that would be great. But to focus in on the multiple employer plan. So what is a multiple employer plan? So this is something that the association adopted, as I mentioned, about 5 years ago. It is a member benefit. Everybody is eligible. And this is something where you can take your practice, whether you have a plan in place or you don't have a plan in place, it's an opportunity for all of the plans within, all the providers within the association to come together and to come under one retirement plan. And through that, you get a number of benefits. You get pricing rather than being a individual plan. You're a much larger plan, which gets you much discounted pricing. And so I'm going to pass it off to JP to go into some of the details, but this really is a wonderful member benefit for you. And if you haven't taken a look at it to this point, we would definitely invite you to do so. Oh, JP, you're muted.
You would think after a year and a half of doing Zoom, you would learn how to unmute before you speak, but still. Yeah, so that's kind of the overview of it. And the main difference in having your own plan versus joining the MEP is you have a lot of responsibilities on your shoulder when you have your own plan. The term fiduciary has been around a while, and you become the person at your office, or maybe you as a physician becomes the plan administrator at your office, and you might become the fiduciary, which is a large responsibility on your shoulders, having to make a lot of decisions for your group. And so this is a piece that we like to use a lot that highlights you in your own plan versus joining the MEP and the responsibilities that come with it. So if you look on screen, if you guys can see screen here, on the left-hand side says your responsibilities before joining the MEP. And so I'm not going to go through each of these points here, but as a plan sponsor, you're responsible for designing the plan documents, appointing and monitoring all plan fiduciaries. Your fiduciary duties are producing and maintaining an investment policy statement, making sure that you're meeting the ERISA standards, doing quarterly investment meetings, reviewing the documents, so forth, the fees and expenses and stuff like that. So a lot of duties, a lot of duties fall on your shoulders as the plan sponsor in the office. If you scroll on down there, determining participant eligibility, doing the enrollment and education meetings, sending out the enrollment packets, complying with ERISA, and we'll get to the next slide in a second that shows some penalties if you don't do some of these things. So ERISA has a lot of different things to adhere to. You have to address, the requests and instructions and compliance with a lot of these tax codes, and you can just see on and on and on. These are all duties that you might not even think that are on your shoulders that you're doing. But these are all that you or your office manager, or whoever is managing your 401k plan, these are duties that they are responsible for. Joining the MEP, on the other hand, removes all of those duties, and you can see they condense it down to just 2 bullet points. That is, select a customized plan designed option to meet your business needs. All that means is, yes, you are part of the multiple employer plan of the FPMA, but you are still able to design your own specific type of plans. If you want safe harbor, if you want matching, or if you want all those different little pieces that we can do, you can customize your own plan and still be part of the larger plan with the FPMA. So that's on you, and then serve as a co-adopter of the plan. So just imagine all of those duties and the having to file the 5500 forms and all those things that are on you, that gets transferred onto the plan and the administrator of the plan. And the plan is looked at as one large plan instead of individual plans there. So it's just a huge benefit to join that. You can see additional benefits here. Our lower cost plan, Dr. Paquillo mentioned that, saved thousands, tens of thousands in fees in his office. And we found that to be the case for most plans that have joined over. Imagine, what the fees would be like in a plan that's just started off at your office versus joining a plan that had millions of dollars in it. You can imagine that the $1 million plan is going to have much lower fees. You get that fee structure by joining the multiple employer plan. No audit costs. There's one audit for the whole thing instead of individual audits that you have to go through individually. Again, you get to retain your plan's independent identity, so you can structure exactly the way that you and your office needs are. And then no cost 5,500 filings. So all of that is put onto the plan itself. This next page just shows.
And JP,
yes,
yeah, that's one of the reasons I switched over. I was the third-party administrator, and so everything fell on me. And I had 2 different years where the IRS came down and audited me. And so I had to spend 2 days each time out of work, sitting with the IRS agent, going through our entire plan. And yeah, the company gave me some paperwork and stuff, but they weren't sitting next to me, helping me out.
Sure.
And that's scary if you have the IRS coming and saying, here, did you know your fiduciary bond has to be 10% of the value of your entire plan? I didn't know that until the IRS guy told me. It's like, okay, you're underfunding your fiduciary bond. And luckily they didn't penalize us and stuff, but that I was so glad to get rid of all those responsibilities.
That's a great point. I mean, you guys as physicians have your work to be done, and you don't need to be distracted by those kinds of issues and those kinds of audits and that kind of stuff. So just a huge burden off of your shoulders. This page is not meant to be a scare tactic necessarily, but these are different fines for failure to do some of those practices that are on your shoulders there. Failure to provide quarterly statements, benefit statements to terminated participants, failure to distribute a summary plan description, failure to file the 5,500 IRS form. That's up to 15,000 per day. Filing it incorrectly, filing it wrong, failure to provide a blackout notice. All these things there, as Dr. Paquillo said, you could easily miss a step and not even realize it. And so again, the whole point of this is to offload all of the duties on the left-hand side onto the administrator. You do what you do best, which is help your patients, and leave the benefits to the employer plan. And again, lower costs most likely, and just you can rest at night knowing that's taken care of there. So it's easy to get started. If you want to, you can see our information down at the bottom. We'll also send out information at the end to each person here. You can email me back saying, yes, I'd like more information on it. We can connect you with Transamerica, who is the plan administrator. They work in conjunction with a TPA, a third-party administrator, and they're very good at walking you through each step of the way. We'll put you in touch with them. They can get you started, and then we'll walk alongside you as we get to the very end of that, help you pick funds, and again, we can be there for the whole implementation of that plan. So very, very simple. We've done it several times, many times. So we'd be glad to help you as you consider this as well. Any questions on that? What we didn't mention here, if you have any questions throughout this whole webinar here, feel free to put them in the chat box, and Maya is monitoring that. And as they come in, she can let us know that there's a question, and we're happy to answer it, or just chime in. If you want to just jump in and ask a question, that's fine as well. So with that, we will move on to the next section there. If there's no questions on the MEP, again, we'd be happy to talk with you offline about that and get those next steps going, starting with just auditing or comparing our plan versus your plan if you have an existing plan now. And if you don't, this is a great way to start. So we'd be happy to tell you a little more about that. So the second piece of this as we talk about asset and creditor protection. You know, putting money into a good salary to retirement plan is one step. Christian, he alluded to life insurance, using life insurance as another way to protect against creditors and asset protection. In our world, when you think of word protection, we automatically think of insurance. And so insurance is something that nobody likes to have or pay for until they actually need it. And then they're very grateful that they have it. And so we're able to service our clients in a variety of ways using insurance, both term insurance and perm insurance or cash value insurance. We are client or brand agnostic. So we have access to many different carriers out there, and we listen to our clients and find the best fit for our clients. And many times it involves a combination of permanent and term insurance. But we find working with physicians the last 5 or 10 years that there's a need for a good solid financial insurance plan, life insurance plan. So that's where that comes in. So what I'm going to do is share my screen again, and we'll go to this next slide here. I've got a illustration that I want to show you, just illustrating a very, very common example of a 45-year-old male, and we have a few different amounts of premium to put in there and see how the cash value can grow. And we're using this. Life insurance needs to be used as life insurance. That's where we're required to make sure that's clear. We're using life insurance for the insurance portion, but the cash value in life insurance can be utilized in such a way that's very beneficial for as another tool in your financial plan to grow assets. You know, if you've maxed out a 401k or maxed out some IRAs, this is another tool to another place to put some money and have the tax advantages that come along with it. So let me share my screen yet again here. And we'll talk through this illustration here. So again, this is just an average 45-year-old male in decent condition, decent health. And we have them three different premium amounts here. 10,000 a year, 30,000, 50,000. For the sake of this right here, we'll talk about the middle column here is very simple. And it's very simple. You have this premium that we put into each year. The way it works is when you pay the premium, a portion of it goes to pay for the insurance, and then the rest of it goes into what's called a sub account. And that sub account is invested in mutual funds, in investment vehicles that actually tied to the stock market that's growing with it. So the reason why that's a plus is typically you'll get much better returns off a vehicle such as that. And so that sub account is what is being invested and growing, and we're monitoring it with you, making sure you're invested. But that's the portion that is growing to a point where, in this illustration here, after 20 years, there's over $1 million of cash value there that can be tapped into or just left as death benefit. And so the nice thing about about life insurance plans and being able to use them as a financial tool is the tax advantages that come along with it. So you have, obviously, you probably know if there's a death benefit being paid out, that's being paid out tax-free to your beneficiary. But also this cash value that's being built up here can also be used in a tax advantage way and being tapped into. You can do it as a loan against yourself. You can use it as a reduction of your death benefit if you need to. That's accessible to you at any time. If you notice here at age 67, the premiums stop, and now we're starting to take money out. Okay, so this is why we use this for physicians in their planning. So if they pay this, so this average 45-year-old pays premiums to age 66, and they retire. Okay, so when they retire, they probably have assets in IRAs, 401ks, and so forth. All those have different taxation attached to them. And so a nice where something like this would fit in nicely is you can offset some of those taxes by drawing some income from a policy like this. So you can see in yellow here, this is actually the money that you can withdraw from this policy on an annual basis. we have this going for, I believe it's 20 years. So for this middle column here, you're able to withdraw almost $125,000 tax-free in this policy for 20 years. That gets you to around age 86. You supplement that along with your IRAs, your RMDs through your IRAs, your Social Security, and maybe other income sources, and that becomes a nice bucket to be able to pull from to be tax, to kind of manage your taxing buckets there. So again, it's the strategy that we use a lot. Term insurance has its place in here as well. If let's say somebody needs $2 million of life insurance, obviously a $2 million permanent policy is going to be a little bit pricey. So we can obviously stack this along with a term policy to have them married together and supplement that, fill in those gaps. Term insurance is very inexpensive, but it's just pure insurance. There's no cash value attached to it. So the combination of term and permanent is a good 1-2 punch for your financial plan, for your insurance plan, to again get those tax-free bucket filled up and access to that in retirement time. Christian, did I miss anything there? I know you have a few points to make there as well.
Yeah. So again, let's remember why we're talking about this. And that's because this money that's within here, one is creditor protected, and it's asset protected. So again, if you have any kind of lawsuit, money held within retirement plans, money held within permanent insurance policies, money held within annuities, all of that is creditor protected. And so that's a huge benefit of this policy here. But that tax-free distribution is pretty huge as well. I've seen a number of clients use this as a vehicle where maybe they want to retire a little bit early, and you can't really get access to those retirement funds till at least 59 and a half. So they might structure this where they're taking, some more significant distributions, maybe from 50 to 60. And then at that point, they turn on their retirement plan distributions at that point to take them the rest of the way. But just with this example right here, you put in 660,000, and then you're going to take out over 2.4, almost 2.5 million tax-free from this middle example here. It can be a very powerful tool, and it can almost act as your pension when you come to retirement time as you're pulling the funds out here. And have seen a number of physicians start these plans. I've seen physicians, ultimately turn on the income and be utilizing these plans. So they can be a great part of the overall retirement planning and financial planning picture. And again, if you use this along with the retirement plan, all of those assets you're putting away are totally creditor protected. So can be a great tool. Again, all these different things that we're going to talk about, it totally depends on your personal financial picture, but we're just showing you a couple of different concepts where you do get that creditor protection tonight. Again, there's a lot of other things that you can do, but that's the focus for tonight, because that's so often what our physician clients are coming to us asking us about. So to wrap up our last topic for tonight, I'm sure a lot of you, when I say the word annuities, some of you want to try and find something to throw at me through the Zoom call. And I'm sure many of you have maybe heard negative things about annuities with high fees and a lot of, inflexibility when it comes to putting your money there. And the first thing I would tell you is, the word annuity, what you're truly getting with the word annuity is some type of guarantee, and every company's annuity is different. Each of those guarantees that each of those companies offer are a little bit different. And there's a lot of different kinds of annuities. There's fixed annuities, index annuities, variable annuities. Annuities typically have been used primarily for income come retirement time, because you have some continuity of that income that you can rely on, even if there's fluctuations within the market. A lot of clients really like that and are looking for that as they get to retirement time, so they can have some peace of mind what that income is going to look like. What we want to share with you tonight is something that's a little bit different as far as an annuity product, and let's kind of dive into that. So what we're going to talk about is called a registered indexed linked annuity. I know that's a long a long title there, but let's talk about what it actually does and how it works. So for a second, let's envision that you have, you're 50 years old. You have 250,000 sitting in an old IRA or sitting in some type of managed money investment account. Okay. And let's say that this money you have earmarked for retirement time. You're 50, you know that you're not touching this money till 59 and a half or later. Okay. So it's set up for retirement. How this solution works, let me one more thing. So in that managed money account, you're maybe paying 1 to even as high as 2%, but 1 to 1.5% maybe in fees on that account, which is dragging on your investment performance every year. And then also you're going to have some breakdown between equities and some portion in bonds. The portion in bonds is going to drag down the overall returns of the portfolio, but you have it there to protect you. So let's talk about this solution that we're looking at and compare that as something maybe to consider for that $250,000 IRA that you have that's kind of sitting out there. So with this type of solution, you're going to get a couple of different things. So one, which is really attractive, 0 fees whatsoever. So no investment fees, no any type of fees coming off of this particular type of annuity. And what you are doing is you're giving up a little bit of liquidity. But remember, this money, you're saying you're you're not touching it till 59 and a half or later, it's for retirement, right? So rather than having it sit in a managed money account, again, where you're paying fees and where you have a portion in bonds, in this type of solution, it's a 6-year solution. And again, there's a lot of different companies. We're not advocating any one company. There's a lot of different companies that offer these type of solutions, but it's a 6-year solution. You put it in there, and how it works is you invest in the S&P 500. Let's go ahead and show that now, JP. And let's look at what the historical returns of the S&P 500 has been. So when you look at a 6-year return of the S&P 500 right up here at the top, you'll see that the average 6-year return is 65.6%. So you're averaging north of 10% per year. Okay. And if you look down here at the bottom, the worst case scenario 6-year period of the S&P 500, again, cumulative over those 6 years, is negative 18.8. Okay. So what these solutions do, you're 100% in the S&P 500. You're going for growth. You're not going to have any kind of bond drag bringing down your returns. You're not going to have any type of fee drag bringing down your returns. You are in this going for growth. And again, if you have an account that's sitting out there, you have some time before retirement, and really your goal is just to grow that account as much as possible. Well, you have a second goal is to not lose what's in there. And that's where the second part of this comes into play, where you also have protection on the downside. And so, JP, let's go ahead and go to the next one. So one company, we're not going to name the company, but one company actually has a solution where you have it's in the red section there. Again, you'll see it's a 6-year solution. It has a 20% buffer on the downside. So I showed you the worst case scenario of the S&P 500 over the course of 6 years was negative 18.8. And this gives you 20% protection on the downside. What that means is if the S&P 500 was down 18.8 at the end of the 6-year period, you're going to get returned to you exactly what you put in the account. You won't have lost anything. Okay. If it was down, if the S&P 500 was down 25%, the worst 6 years in history, if you will, then you would be down 5% because you have that 20% buffer protecting you on the downside. So that's how the downside works. You'll see we're invested in the S&P 500 and we are uncapped on the growth. So with this particular company, you can, if the S&P 500 was up 200% over the course of the 6-year time frame, you would be up 200%. The average is around that 60% or around 10% per year. But whatever it goes up, that's the growth that you're going to get. So again, the reason why to think about something like this is if you're in an account paying management fees and paying, because you have bonds that are in there, you're sacrificing your growth through something like that. If you have the time where you can set that money aside, then this is a 6-year solution. You set the money aside, you're fully invested for growth, and you're protected all the way up to 20% on the downside. So this is an example just to kind of maybe broaden the horizons a little bit about using annuities, because, historically we've seen physicians try and use annuities here and there simply because of the creditor protection, but maybe have been unhappy with, what the investment solution looks like, or maybe they didn't need a certain guarantee. But this can be a very attractive solution. And again, you get the downside protection, you have all that upside potential, you have the creditor protection, you're paying no fees. So really it's the question, do you have that bucket of money that can sit on the sidelines for a little bit, growing for retirement? And if you do, this type of vehicle gets you the creditor protection and can be a very attractive investment option as well. So we've seen a number of clients, again, as you have, maybe retirement accounts that are sitting out there, as you have managed money accounts that are sitting out there, if you have that time frame, then this can be an attractive solution. Overall, to kind of bring things to a conclusion, as we showed you at the very beginning on that financial planning pinwheel, there are so many different financial planning choices and parts of the financial picture that can make sense. There's things like long-term care and disability insurance and college funding and trust planning, and there are so many other elements that come into it. And one, oftentimes the core is so often overlooked, and that's just doing a financial plan. We come across so many physicians and business owners and successful individuals who never actually went through the process of doing a true financial plan, where they have a blueprint for the choices they're going to make and how things are going to map out. And if they want to retire at 65, can they really do that? And how much do they need to be putting away in order to be able to accomplish that? And how much disability insurance do they need? How much those financial plans take all of that into account. And that's really the foundation. But as we're talking about financial planning for physicians, asset protection is definitely something to consider. That's what we wanted to focus on tonight for all of you, is a couple of those concepts. The one other thing in the state of Florida that gets you asset protection is also your homestead home here in the state of Florida. So that's one of the things we should add to the list. But all of these things we've talked about get you creditor protection, and can each have a place in a financial plan if it makes sense for your goals and what you're trying to accomplish. So with that, we wanted to open it up and see if there were any questions at this point.
You're speechless. Yeah.
Maybe
Nope.
Last call. Well,
oh, sorry, there is one.
Okay.
From Dr. Lee. The question is, how important is your relationship with an accountant?
Yes, wonderful question. We really look at your financial planning team as an accountant, a financial advisor, and an estate planning attorney. Those three individuals work together for your benefit. Hopefully you have each of those individuals on your team helping you with your financial planning, your estate planning. Your accountant helps out in a big way on a year-to-year basis. The financial planner can do the same. The estate, it's all of them working in tandem to help you make important decisions. Some people's tax picture can ultimately be somewhat simple. And if that's the case, then with some of the rules that came out through the tax laws that happened when Trump was in office, some things definitely changed at that point, where a lot of individuals just takes the standard deduction at this point. And so it makes it much less complicated when you're doing your taxes. But as far as, decisions along the way, you definitely want to have a relationship with someone that you can turn to for questions. And you want all three of those members of your financial planning team talking to each other, communicating with each other so that you know you're headed in the right direction when you have them all working together.
Yeah, that's good. Good question.
Any other questions?
No.
We do plan, everyone, as I mentioned, to send out an email just touching base with everyone. We will send that the financial planning pinwheel out to everybody just as a thank you for tuning into the call. If anybody has any individual questions, you know, we in building the relationship with the FPMA, we hope to, you know, that all of you feel like we are a resource to you as well, where you can reach out to us with financial planning questions across the board. It can be even, can you just take a look at this and, you know, let me know if I'm paying too much for this, you know, by way of fees or premiums or anything along those lines. You know, please let us be a resource if there's anything we can do for you. Obviously, the multiple employer plan is definitely a focus of our relationship with the association, and so would love to have any conversations there. It truly, as Dr. Vakil says, you can see incredible savings from a fee standpoint. You remove so much of that fiduciary liability that's on your shoulders by using that plan. If you're a startup plan, if you don't have a 401k plan in place, it makes even more sense. I mean, when you're independent, when you're on your own, when you're a small practice or a small plan, as you're trying to get that going, the pricing and the fees within a 401k plan are totally dictated by the amount of assets within the plan. And so by pooling together, by being a part of the association, it gets you much discounted fees within that plan, which is just going to mean more money is going to stay in your pockets and in the pockets of your employees. So we would love to have any of those conversations. Please reach out and, you know, respond to the email or reach out directly if there's any questions anyone has, please.
Yeah, and most of you should have received an email from me earlier today. I will do a follow-up email to you as well with that piece, that document. And we plan on doing another one of these, a different financial topic, but another one of these in a couple of months. So stay tuned for that. Maya, I'm sure we'll start communicating with that when time comes. But we will change the financial topic to something different, just so we can keep it fresh and present you some more things to think about as you're going through your practice. But just want to say thank you for the time, and Maya, thank you as well.
We'll turn it back over to Maya to close us out.
Yes.
No problem. Before I close really quickly, I just want to say, for anyone that wanted to be entered into the drawing for the $100 gift card, please don't forget to email me. It's mporter, PORTER @fpma.com. I also dropped it in the chat box. Just your first, last name, as well as the word financed in the subject line or the text anywhere, just so I know that you actually attended. I will also be checking emails because I know some people stayed the entirety, but they might have had to leave a little early. So, and at the end, thank you guys for attending. Thank the speakers so much for giving us so much knowledge. A lot of it, even though I'm not a physician, I had no idea about. So it was a really great learning experience. And thank you guys for joining us. Have a good night.